You ever walk into a place thinking it's just another errand, one more day, one more routine, and then, before you know it, you're center stage in a moment that rewrites how people see you forever? That's how it started for Lyra Valkyrie that morning at Camp Meridian. And if you've ever been underestimated, you're going to feel this one deep down. So there she was, just a woman in a faded jacket, boots that had seen more dirt and trouble than most of those kids on base would know in a lifetime. Just trying to get some replacement gear for a weekend training exercise, nothing more. She wasn't looking to make a statement, didn't want any eyes on her, but when she walked into that supply center, it was like walking into the middle of a bad joke she'd heard too many times before. Right away, the young captains started circling, like they could sniff out something they didn't recognize. Web-pressed uniform, clean boots, fresh off the academy, swaggers eyed her up, nodded at his buddies Torres and Morrison, and out came the phones, the little whispers, the smirks. "Check out the LARP by the front desk," Webb sneered, not bothering to keep his voice down, just loud enough for the whole room to catch the show. "Probably bought that jacket at a surplus store," Torres chimed in, his nervous energy twisting into something nastier when he had an audience. "But she's got stories about secret ops she can't talk about because, it's always need to know." Morrison, son of a general, didn't miss his chance. "My dad says you can always spot the fakes by the gear. Real operators don't need to wear their service on their sleeve." The crowd was growing some, just trying to get on with their day. Others staring because, humiliation is a spectator sport. You know what I mean? Thing is, Lyra had seen this play before. The world loves to make snap judgments. She kept her eyes on the requisition forms, wrote slow and steady, even as the comments bounced around her, like bullets that couldn't find their mark. That jacket, though olive drab, frayed at the cuffs, patches so faded you couldn't tell if it had been wings or claws, or just the shadow of some old pain well. That jacket had history stitched into every seam, the kind that makes you stand straighter when you see it if you know what to look for. But most people don't look close. They see what they want, they fill in the blanks. So here's the twist: what those captains didn't see, what they couldn't know, was that a 5-star general was about to walk through those doors. General Hawthorne, built like an oak, eyes that had seen more than he'd ever say. Every ribbon on his chest a story most folks couldn't imagine. He wasn't there for drama. He just wanted to check on some training, maybe grab a coffee, get on with his day. But then he stopped, dead in his tracks. His gaze locked on that ghost patch on Lyra's shoulder, and something in the air just changed. Like a storm rolling in, silent and heavy. The whole supply center went quiet, the kind of silence that makes you realize you've missed something big, that you're about to see something you'll talk about for years. Hawthorne walked straight up to Lyra, ignoring the 3 captains whose faces were starting to lose their color webs, phones still streaming, capturing his own embarrassment for every follower to see. The general's voice was a whisper, but it hit like a sledgehammer. "Ghost 6, he said, almost like he was talking to a memory. Lyra stiffened, the pen in her hand snapping, a little crack that cut through the hush. They didn't salute. She was civilian now. He was in public, but something heavy passed between them. Decades of silence, things done in the shadows, names that never made it into any official record. March 15th, 2012. "Kandahar," the general said, his voice rough with the kind of emotion that's got nowhere left to hide. "My son, he was supposed to die that day, but somebody carried him 12 miles through enemy territory. They said there was no rescue, but he came home. Because of you." The room was holding its breath, the kids with their social media streams realizing they'd crossed a line you can't just scroll past. Hawthorne's hand was shaking now, the years and losses catching up. "You were the ghost who saved my boy," he said. "You pulled him out when everyone else said it was over." The patch on Lyra's jacket, the one the captains had laughed about, wasn't a souvenir. It was a ghost, a shadow of a unit that never officially existed, the 415 Shadow Operations Group. The ones who did the jobs nobody would ever hear about, who got no medals, no headlines, just orders and the hope to make it home. The general started to tell the room, his voice picking up now. Not a speech, just the raw truth. "Staff Sergeant Lyra Valkyrie, 7 years in places we don't put on maps, volunteered for missions no one wanted, missions where success meant nobody knew you'd been there." Every word landed like a verdict. My son is alive because of her. While you three were trying to go viral, she was saving lives. Web stream was still running, thousands watching the turn, the twist, the shame. The general ordered him to delete it, handed his phone over, cold authority, ending that little internet career on the spot. Report to my office at 1400, he told the captains. We're going to have a talk about leadership and respect. And you could see it hit them, the real weight of what they'd done. Therese, nerves turning to regret. Morrison wishing the floor would open up. Webb silent for the first time, the swagger drained out. But Lyra? She didn't gloat, didn't rub it in. She just looked at them calm, even the way only people who've walked through fire can look at you. You made assumptions based on what you saw, she said, her voice soft but carrying across the whole place. We all do that, but you get to choose what you do with that lesson. Start asking questions before you make up your mind. Use your power to lift people, not tear them down. The general nodded, still emotional but proud, and then did something nobody saw. Kamingi reached into his coat and pulled out a black case. Inside a metal, simple but beautiful, a star with wings that shimmered, the shadow star, given to those who'd done what could never be written down. There are fewer than 20 of these, he said. I've carried this for 11 years, waiting to thank the ghost who brought my boy home. Today's the day. Lyra shook her head. Sir, I can't accept. We did what needed to be done, not for medals. But the general just smiled, pinned it next to the faded patch. That's exactly why you deserve it. The whole room was watching, privates, sergeants, officers, seeing what real honor looked like, understanding, maybe for the first time, that leadership isn't noise, it's grace under pressure. Private Martinez behind the desk, the only one who'd kept his nerve, handed Lyra her gear, eyes bright with respect. Thank you, ma'am, he said, and you could tell he'd remember this forever. As Lyra and the general walked out together, the sunlight caught on her jacket, one bright, new star gleaming beside an old ghost. The bass got quiet for a long moment, then slowly, like after a thunderclap, life started up again, but nobody would ever see that supply center the same way. Webb, Torres, Morris and those boys would spend the rest of their careers living up to a new standard, one set not by noise, but by silence, courage, and a humility they'd tasted the hard way. Martinez would tell his kids someday about the morning he saw a ghost. The rest would pass on the lesson. Sometimes the most important people are the ones you'd never notice in a crowd. And maybe you've seen someone show grace when they could have demanded justice. Maybe you've judged a book by its cover. What would you do in their place? Would you step up or step back? That's what this story is about. Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk about real leadership, hidden valor, and how quick we are to judge. Who deserves our respect? And how do we make sure we see them before it's too late? Don't forget, share your story. Hit subscribe if you felt this. And let's keep these conversations alive, because sometimes the real heroes are the ones whose names we'll never know.